Welcome to the Sometimes Podcast, where sometimes I podcast. I'm Shahvar, and for those of you who don't know me, the best way to describe what I do is I'm a multidisciplinary artist. Sometimes I like to make music, sometimes I like to make videos, and sometimes I like to do random shit like this. In my first episode, I had a very special guest. He's a rapper, an artist, free thinker, instrumentalist, visionary. I'm happy to introduce Shomari Wanders.
Think that they know me a bit. They do not actually know shit. You try to slow up the kid. I did not actually notice. Family came from the sticks.
Hey, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
First of all, is it called Stuck?
Yeah.
Crazy track. I love it so
thank you,
much.
man.
I don't belong here. Stuck in my mental. Me and him don't get along well. He blew out my candle.
So many layers to it, and even the production and the mixing and the depth of it. Crazy song. I loved it.
Thank you.
The depth in which you write, it really makes you think, and it's self-reflective. I find it, right? Like it almost feels like I'm listening to you rap in a mirror. You know?
I think I am most of the time.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm mostly talking to myself, either talking myself into something or talking myself through something. That's usually what it is. And yeah, I think also part of why I didn't post a lot of that stuff is because I think a lot of the music that I tend to listen to, it doesn't seem to be like, I thought maybe it's too selfish, but I started to listen to other artists. Like I had to branch out and finally listen to other people like Billy Woods, amazing writer, rapper. Just like the way they write, I resonated so heavily with it because they seem to kind of like, to use what you were saying, like rapping into a mirror. Like they are not afraid to like interrogate themselves in a song, and I really like that. And yeah, that's something that I'm like constantly learning to do.
You know, when I see you post on Instagram where you're just jamming out,
Yeah.
it gives me life.
That's when I have the most fun, I think, when
Yeah.
I'm just jamming out and I don't put pressure on myself on output, on just like the commercial aspect, on other stuff. That's when I'm really like, oh, I'm doing what I really wanted to do, just like interact with music, interact with myself, and like release. Like that's like the main part of all of this, really.
Are you working on anything now?
Yeah, I'm trying something new where I'm playing with distortion a lot. Like I'm using my guitar a lot more lately, and like I'm relying on my production a lot more than like looking, for example, on type beats. Like I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to dip my hands in many bags, and like I want to bring my production more out there. And like that's the stuff that I've recently posted on Instagram where I'm jamming out, like that's like kind of the results of like me figuring out an aspect of, I think, my sound.
Do you find yourself making music to connect with people?
That's a tough one. I think I'm trying to connect with myself, and I think if anyone else resonates with that, the shoe fits. Like if the shoe fits for you, it fits, kind of thing. But I'm not necessarily trying to like connect to people in general. But I'm not trying to. It's kind of just like, yeah, if I put it out there and you like it, you like it. If you like it for certain reasons, I'm even more grateful than if just like, oh, this is something that I like to hear. If there's like things that you pick out and you're like, wow, I like this, that's like the highest compliment. Because like I'm trying to do this for myself, like decoupling things for myself. So if like you're going beyond that through the listening experience, I'm like eternally grateful. Like,
Is writing words and lyrics part of that decoupling process of introspection? Like, does that help you on a therapy level?
I think so. I'm like, because like sometimes the stuff that I write, I don't like. Like, I don't mean that I don't like that I wrote it. It's stuff that I'm not, how would I say it? It's kind of like aspects of myself that I'm putting forward that might not be savory, if that makes sense.
It does.
It's like, oh, that's not like it's like kind of like, oh, where you like constantly big up yourself, for example, or like you constantly like talk down on yourself, like those, like that kind of, that balance, or going back and forth, or I like to play with that because I don't know, I feel like I'm letting myself be myself without like shame.
For sure. It's the shadow work.
Yeah.
Like drawing out the dark aspects of yourself, or even like the super cheery aspects of
Yeah,
yourself,
they
right?
both need to meet each other because otherwise, they're I can't just, yeah, you can't just rely on one or just sit on one. They need to, if they're gonna be here, at least let them coexist, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is kind of like where my head's at.
Yeah, I feel like that's like one thing that's misunderstood about rappers, or yeah, rappers mostly. Because I feel like the reason I say rappers is because rap is the most spoken form of expression.
That's
It's
not
the
talked about enough.
most words. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like, I feel like there's a lot of judgment and criticism as to what a rapper says.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in my perspective, it's the shadow work, right? It's
Yeah.
that it's drawing that aspect out that needs to be expressed in some form. It could be, for some people it could be writing, for some people it could be dance. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But for some people it's rap. And if it's rap, sometimes it's ugly.
Yeah. And like it should come out. And there's also so many other genres that do that like don't get that sort of flack
Yeah.
for it, where it's like, you hear like country music, or it's not even me singling out a certain genre. I'm just like, for example, like rap music, because it's so popular and because it's basically pop music, the stuff that most people get access to, where they come to those conclusions where it's like, oh, it's so this, it's so that, it's so this. That's like, you'll find that in any genre at that level. But if you dive into the underground, you don't even have to go as far as the underground. Like, even locally, like there's so many people that is writing stuff that's like, that would blow people's minds, that constantly blows people's minds when you go to open mic events, or met y'all, like people behind the cameras, like people are talking about stuff that is beautiful and ugly, and that dichotomy is beautiful. Like,
When I say MP3 player, what song comes to your head?
honestly, Crawling in My Skin by Linkin Park.
Jeez, big.
That's just like, I don't know, but Linkin Park are also like a big thing in
Yeah.
my life. But
I love Linkin Park. When did you have like a aha moment with hip hop?
I think it was my first year of university. Like, I was listening to a lot of Joey Badass, a lot of Isaiah Rashad, and like that was kind of what got the gears turning about production. And yeah, and also just like, I was in my first year of university, I was just alone, and like just sitting all that time with my thoughts, and like tapping into something that I was like yearning for. I think that's like the catalyst kind of just like sent me off from there.
I do have a question, but before I ask that, Joey Badass, one of the best beat selection
Oh yeah,
games
I mean,
in the game.
got Static Selecta.
Yeah, bro.
You
Like,
can't
that one
miss.
song I was just listening to the other day, Christ Consciousness.
Yo, that song actually might be the one.
Yeah? Crazy.
Like,
it's so good.
Yeah, I remember the video where it opens up and he's like,
haven't seen
you haven't seen the video?
No.
Yo, yeah, but yeah.
We'll watch it.
Yo, he's just sitting in a chair like this.
Yeah.
He's just like feeling himself. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, people do this in videos. Like, I want that. Like, I want that for me. Like, to feel myself in a video, and like just to feel, yeah, creative. Tap into some Christ consciousness. Tap into something beyond myself. Like,
If you could give advice to an artist that's having a hard time going into their flow states, what would it be?
there's so much pressure telling you that you need to do it this way and have it this way, and there's so many like people online that tell you if you don't do it this way, then you just don't fit the bill. And I think maybe whatever you can do to reinforce that you just belong is like it's super important. And for me, one of the things that reminds me that I do belong doing what I do is when I jam out and I notice that I'm like smiling, or like I notice I feel lighter in any type of way, whether it's like 30 seconds, 5 seconds, a minute. Like that's how I keep getting into that flow state. And now those 2 hour, 3, 4, like those long flow state sessions are few and far between, for me at least. But it's like when I get those, I tend to like cool down a lot and tell myself like this was like I just immense gratitude. And then like, you know, I most of the time it's like those 2 minutes, 3 minutes of like this felt good. And like to me that's enough of flow state. Like it's kind of like when people say like meditation and like you're supposed to just fully clear your mind. Maybe some people can do that. I've heard, and something that's helped me is like just reminding yourself to breathe alone is meditation. Because I think those moments will come regardless, whether it's like you're making music or doing other things. Sometimes people get that way when they're going on a hike.
Yeah.
You know?
When people say I have writer's block, that's really what it is, right? It's like that block from going into that flow, that other zone, the other realm, the state of channeling.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not a block whether you're not good enough. It's a block of like sometimes like you're just on your way somewhere and there's like you know those like when you're trying to park and like the thing comes down. It's not like you can't park. It's just there's something preventing you. So
yeah,
you know, it's like figuring out like how to get around that, or maybe you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
like maybe you can't park there, you go somewhere else, or I don't know, maybe you have to wait, or like there's or maybe not a great analogy.
No, it is a great analogy because if you like, I think if you just ignore it, you can have more blocks kind of, you know, if there must be something that you do or you're not doing that's creating that block, and if you keep doing that thing, you create more blocks.
Yeah,
right.
And for me in particular, mostly it's like that pressure and shame.
Is it external or is it always internal? The pressure and the shame.
I think it's external, and I deal with it internally. Cause like I think most people, you know, when they have an idea and they're like, yeah, I could do this, it's usually something else that's like, you know what, maybe I can't. Or sorry, it's something else that's telling them they can't, and then they're like, oh, you know what, maybe I can't. So like they can. There's just some other factor that's like interfering with that I guess frequency. And yeah.
I feel like flow state is our natural state.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? And like animals, for example, are in flow state.
Always.
Right? I wonder what it is about our way of being that is poisoning that.
Too many like designations of what is and what isn't, when like a lot of the time it's both, or like a lot of the time there is no this and that, there just is kind of thing. So maybe it's like those constant like compartmentalizations maybe that like pull us away from flow state, because I feel like that flow state is you connecting with oneness. And at the same time, I understand like cutting things into categories and designations also helps us. Like it helps us interact things without having to put too much like mental stress on it, because I feel like we also know deep down that there's so many things that are connected, but like because we can like split it, then we can like take it piece by piece, even though we know that it's not literally. It's like you cut a pie into pieces and you eat one piece of the pie. You didn't just eat just one piece of the pie. You ate the pie.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, the whole pie is still there.
It's like naming planets.
Yeah, they're still what they are.
Yeah, but
regardless.
like naming Saturn is like opening up a page for whatever that thing is, and then starting to write. Like you write Saturn at the top of that page,
right,
and then you start to write about that thing.
Yeah,
and then you can just open up to that page again and be like, "Oh, this is about that thing."
Exactly. Meanwhile, whole solar system.
Yeah.
Or like not even like it just keeps going. It just keeps going.
I guess it's like the obsession of understanding things, right?
Yeah.
And like trying to get down to the bottom of things. It's like it comes back down to the idea that science is magic explained.
I like that. Yeah.
That's the name of that episode. Science is magic explained.
Yeah.
Hey man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being my first guest.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, man.
Graciously, I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
And I'm looking forward to anything that you put out.
Think that they know me a bit. They do not actually know shit. You try to slow up the kid. I did not actually notice. Family came from the sticks.